Hi, I'm Nina Cooke, and thank you so much for coming along today to the Entrepreneurs in a Game podcast. And today I'm really excited to welcome along Elliot Kay. And I know Elliot's going to share some great information on this call, and I'm really excited about him being here. So Elliot is a mentor to small businesses, and he's also an international trainer. He's a speaker and author of 3 books. His most recent is called Power to Succeed. He's the Managing Director of Strategic Brilliance Services, working with businesses to grow their current businesses to 6 figures and beyond. He's also the Commercial Director of Pony Express Speakers Club Limited, and I can personally vouch how wonderful that is, this speaking club. He's the creator of Power to Succeed, and which is now known as the Confidence Breakthrough. It's a 2-day experiential training program. Now, it wasn't so long ago when Elliot was lying in his flat in Acton, wondering how he's going to pay his rent and how he's ever going to find true love. And through both his strategy and confidence breakthrough, he managed to turn his situation around. Not only did he save his business, he founded 2 further businesses. And I'm very pleased to say he also found true love. So Elliot, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. And wow, when I hear the introduction, sometimes I have to go, who are you talking? Oh, that's me. So it's really funny because I don't always quite digest how much has happened when someone reads it out.
And you've turned your life around. I'm really, looking forward to finding out exactly how you did that. Because as you know, this is what I do, and what this interview is all about is your mindset. So how you change things around through your thinking, by changing your thinking. I'm really, looking forward to exploring that with you. So could you just tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now and all the success you're enjoying? Because you obviously didn't have this, it wasn't always there, was it? You had to move to this place.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's like anything. When you look at things in moderation, or when you look back, you're like, what was I really complaining about, But when you're in it at the time, it's like the end of the world. So, I mean, it depends how long, it's a short podcast, so I'll give you the short edited version. But basically what happened was, in terms of growing up, I grew up with a very hardworking mum. I grew up with an alcoholic father. So money was never around. It was very scarce. We weren't a wealthy family, very poor. For a long time, I lived on my brother's hand-me-downs. But one thing, my mum was always, she was very hardworking. She was very tenacious. She was very driven and very entrepreneurial, actually, towards sort of my teenage years. I realized she was a bit of an entrepreneur. But, really, whatever atrocities I suffered in my life, it all kind of came together when that period you're talking about, which is 2010, 2011, when I really had a great year in 2010. And I ended the year and I made the most money I ever made. And I was close to 6 figures. And I did what every wise man does. And I packed my suitcase and followed a woman across the world to Australia. And then literally within 2 weeks, it all fell apart. All of my clients, except one, finished their coaching at the time that I was a coach. I don't coach anymore. And so they all finished and, okay, bang, one cash flow gone. And then after that, I was working with another company doing some subcontracting. We fell into a big argument. They refused to pay me. I'd also invested in a property in Cardiff, which was meant to be ready by 2007, but it obviously was finished in 2008. We know what happened in 2008. And then in 2011, the same month, the bank were like, we don't believe you can make the payment for the loans. We're calling it in. I'm like, well, hey, good luck with that. And plus the lady I followed to Australia got a job with a billionaire and told me she doesn't have time for me. So, and if you look back, you're going, what are you complaining about? Like, come on, that's really not that bad. But at the time, it just brought everything that ever went wrong in my life together. And it just, everything fell apart, including me. And I found myself literally standing on a cliff in Australia, near Bondi Beach, between Coogee Beach and Bondi Beach, looking down the cliff going, why me? What happened? And then it was really standing there and remembering something that someone told me, which was, the graveyard is the wealthiest place on this planet because too many people take their dream intact. And I was like, okay, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to take my dream with me. I kind of got hold of myself. I'm like, my arms are working, my legs are working, everything's functioning. I can do this. It's the universe calling on you to truly step up and be that person you claim you are, and show and lead by example. So when I came back to the UK, I really had to delve in and look deep in everything that I needed to deal with. And I found for me, traditional coaching didn't really work. And I was just like, okay, what does work? And which is when I developed the experiential, what was the confidence breakthrough. I still own the trademark to that, although I've pressed pause on that for now because I'm really focused on strategy. But I started to do a lot of the exercises in that. I started to, in kind of normal coachy terms, like I started to reframe my situation. I started collapse emotional attachment. I started to really keep my eye on moving forwards while dealing with the pain I was dealing with. And then it started to turn around it took about 6 to 8 months to really start to see the change turn around, both in myself and in the company and in the business. And I had to eventually, a couple of years later, I gave the flat to the bank. I was like, here you are, here's the keys. I went through personal bankruptcy, but not the business. I saved the business. I didn't save myself, if that makes sense. But that was all part of the journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you told me back then, I'd be running 3 businesses, I'd think you're crazy, because at the time I couldn't fathom running one. But for me, the big changer was truly dealing with my how to deal with what's going on inside, but also being strategic about everything that I do.
That's quite a story. So you felt that you hit rock bottom and somehow you managed to turn things around. So this is the second part of the story, how you managed to do that. And you said something really great. You said this is part of the journey of being an entrepreneur. And often as entrepreneurs, we expect things just to happen for us. We start our business very excited. We're going to be our own boss, have all this flexibility in our lives, and it's just going to work and replace our corporate income. Right. But it doesn't always work like that. It's a journey, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's funny. I was talking to one of the guys I mentored yesterday, who's now he leads trainers in one of the leading coaching companies in the UK. And we're talking about this. And I think what's happened these day and age, which is quite different from our generation, is we do live in an unconscious instant gratification generation. And it's embedded in us too now. We expect that as soon as we put something online, it's going to get traction. People will share. We expect it. I think it's an unconscious expectation. And it's the same when we run a business. A lot of people think that when we have a good idea or we just want to supplement our income, I'll just go out there and I'll make it happen. It'll just happen, because what people don't tell you is the steps in between. They don't tell you what happened at the beginning. Of course, you only see the success. Plus, you're stuck in this instant gratification. It should happen yesterday. It should happen yesterday. And that's an unconscious thing. And that's really concerning, because actually it's not going to happen yesterday. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take months. But because we're so hooked on the end result and only seeing people's end results and not the journey, it becomes disheartening. And I was thinking about this, if I can share. I walk up from Waterloo every day to where I'm based, where I'm doing the call now. I was thinking, a lot of people complain about the 5% or the 1%, right? They're like, oh, they 1% people own the wealth in the world, and 5%. And I was thinking about that, and it's that 5 or 1% that are willing to do what it takes, what the 99 or 95% are willing to do. And it doesn't mean they're all horrible, cutthroat, greedy people. A lot of them are just willing to do what a lot of people aren't willing to do. And I think that's a big factor. And we must shift away from the instant results gratification culture that we all live in now. And that's a massive concern, because actually what I'm seeing more and more, of course, once the buzz fades, people quit and they go back to job, and then they're resentful, and then and then this doesn't work, and this is broken, and it'll never happen. And that's because actually, like you said, people just think, I'll just do my job, it'll just happen. Burn your bridges. I'm watching all these people; they're really successful. My key thing is look at their journey, not just the result.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to keep in mind. And also when it doesn't work for them, they feel like a failure, they beat themselves up, they think there's something wrong with them, and they really become, have a lot of negative thinking and lose confidence. So what role did your mindset play in turning things around? Because you really did do a 180-degree turnaround with your life, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, look, mindset, as much as I don't coach anymore, is an essential part of anything, right? If your mindset's not right, nothing will happen, or very little will happen. I
Hmm.
shouldn't say nothing. Something always happens. Um, sorry, just a little itchy nose. What was I saying? So I had to work on my own because at the time I was a coach. I published a book. I was 13 Britain's Next Top Coach. I was doing what would be considered well as a coach. Um, but clearly there was something deeper I needed to deal with. And that was the key thing that I had to accept, that when I was found myself on this cliff, I was like, okay, there's another level that I need to deal with to get to where I need to go. The mindset was everything. And I knew I had to go where I didn't want to go with my mindset. I had to deal with what I thought I dealt with. So clearly I still had issues around the alcoholism. Clearly still had issues around intimacy. Because when I was a kid, I was sexually abused. I thought I dealt with that. I hadn't quite dealt with that. So obviously I had intimacy problems. I clearly had problems with money because money didn't stick around. And money only stays where it's welcome, where it's invited. So clearly on a deep, energetic, vibrational level, I clearly still had blocks. So I had to deal with that. And, that meant really looking at some really dark places in my mind. And kind of, again, reframing it, changing it. And I don't mean just spinning it. I don't mean, oh, no, this is all great. It's all part of the journey. It's actually looking what was truly going on, learning to deal, let go, and then move on. So the mindset's everything. And, as an entrepreneur, to all the entrepreneurs who watch and listen to your podcast, the greatest gift you can give yourself is investing in your mindset. The second greatest gift you can give yourself is working on your strategy. Because, mindset, it's true, it's like the 80%, and then the 20% is the strategy. But I really had to go and confront my demons, so to speak. I had to go in there and I had to go, all right, what's going on here, guys? Why have you resurfaced? And I did that through a range of techniques. I also went and studied cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy because I really wanted to understand how thoughts, how our cognitive part of our brain works. So again, I could further deal and help people do that. But if you don't deal with the mindset, it's a bit like expecting a tree to go without a trunk and just have branches. It's like, it won't work. You don't have a solid foundation. And it's huge. And like I said, the greatest gift you can give, yourself as an entrepreneur, Nina, is to really invest in your mindset and then invest in your strategy. Because the more, and the other thing I just like to say is it's never ending. All right. Please don't think, I don't know about you, Nina, but I really hate the onion metaphor. And I'll tell you why. Not because we smell, but because we never get to nothing. It would insinuate that when we peel, we suddenly get to nothing. And that's not true. As human beings, as deep, complex, amazing people that we are, yes, when you peel another layer comes out, and that needs to be dealt with. And that's what I mean. It never really ends. And so don't think you'll ever be, you don't need fixing, but don't think you'll ever truly be, forget perfection as well as an entrepreneur. That's just one way to destruction. You never really truly get there. But the joy that is growing into this incredible best you. And if you can show up every day being a better person than you were yesterday, then you'll get very far.
Yeah, I completely concur with that. It is all about what you think is possible for you. And it seems like such a cliche, but I've personally found that to be so true. And the clients I've worked with, and I'm sure you've, the same in your world. So I'm really interested to just explore a little bit more about how your thinking changed for you. So you were able to build not just success, because success is one part of it, but happiness is so much bigger, finding your partner. So what did you start saying to yourself after you went through all this, inner work? What was your thinking about what you could achieve?
For me, it was all about, what is, again, might be a little bit of cliche, but it's all about the purpose piece. And was I willing to compromise on my purpose? I differentiate. There's a purpose in life and there's your business purpose. And I do think they're two separate things. And at the time, I really wanted to focus on my purpose in life, which is to bring people tools to deal with inner conflict. And I just kept my eye on that, going, I've got to deal with this stuff so I can serve humanity. I've got to deal with my stuff so I can be at service to the people I can help. And that's what really kept me going, so much so that even when I was offered 3 full-time jobs while I was going through this, while I wasn't sure I was going to pay my rent, because I was completely broke when I came back from Australia. I was like, no, I can't. I'll be giving in. That will be shortchanging myself. And there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity, right? It could have been a really stupid decision, but it turned out to be the right decision. But it was all about staying true to my purpose. And I think, again, if I can just, a lot of people, entrepreneurs, get stuck that your purpose has to be this amazing, glorifying Gandhi, Martin Luther King type thing in life. It can be, it doesn't have to be. My purpose in life now has changed completely. It's still to bring humanity tools to deal with in a conflict, but for me, it's to be a great father and a great husband. That's what I do now. And that's completely shifted. The only thing I'm interested in is how good a dad I'm going to be and what husband I'll be to Emily. I'm far from perfect, but that's what I'm working on. So don't get stuck that your purpose has to be, I'm going to invent the next PayPal or the next Stripe. I'm going to disrupt the world by doing this. It can just be to be a great person daily. So for me, it was focusing on that kept me going. I woke up every morning. I was like, focus on your purpose. Whatever pain you're feeling is minimal in comparison to what you need to achieve. And acceptance was a massive pin. Every day I would say, okay, I accept where I am, and I would go into questions. So I'll happily share that. I'll go into what needs to happen for this to shift, but you don't expect an answer. You're just asking the universe, God, higher power, whatever you want to call them, or maybe your inner wisdom. I would go, what needs to happen for this to shift? What's right about this that I'm not getting? What lesson is there for me to learn, but without the pressure of an expectation of an answer? And that's how I really kind of every day I go into question, and the answer would appear, but not in the way you expect them. No one went, here's your answer, Elliot. I'll be like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, okay. And eventually I just started going, what if today could be fun? That's what I used to, and then eventually that's all I asked. I would wake up, go, okay, what if today could be fun? And then at the end of the day, I'd reflect, go, oh my God, I had fun. I was witty. I was cheeky. I was jokey. And it wasn't a conscious thing. And then, of course, when you're having fun, things happen a lot easier. You don't have that pressure. It's a lot smoother. And that's what I said to myself. I also did a lot of incantations or affirmations, and as much as you feel they don't work, again, for me at the time, it's what kept me going. It's to wake up and go, I command my subconscious to allow me to show up as a leader. I command my subconscious to allow me to show up in my power. I command my subconscious to be the go-to person. And I still say that, even when but now I've shifted to meditation more. But I say in a meditative way versus I command my subconscious, which is forceful. But those are the things I said to myself. I still do. If it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, because you've got a whole host of techniques there which you can use, and it becomes a part of your life and who you are. It doesn't become something that you have to think about. It just becomes an everyday thing to give you that lovely momentum and boost. And you said focus on your purpose, which is really important, because so much of our focus is on what we don't want.
Right.
That we don't
Absolutely.
focus on what we do want. And I remember reading this, and I had to read it many times before it really hit me, that actually we only have a limited number of thoughts. So we're only going to be alive for a certain number of years. And although we have tens of thousands of thoughts every day, it's still a limited, finite number of thoughts. And do we really want to waste the majority of those thoughts on what we don't want?
Absolutely. And the thing is, we've got voluntary thoughts, we've got involuntary thoughts, right? Something I studied when I did my cognitive work. And you're going to have thoughts anyway. It's the choice of how you respond to the thoughts. So there's nothing you can do if you have an involuntary thought, because your brain has to produce thoughts. So you might think, hey, I want to punch that guy in the face, right? For example. And that's in it, that just came involuntary. You didn't think consciously about it. It just went, hey, I don't like that guy, I'm going to punch him in the face. What happens is the voluntary thoughts that follow that. And that's where where a lot of people spiral, versus going, I dismiss that thought, which there's techniques to do. But what happens is people waste their time going, oh my God, why did I think that? I'm such a terrible person. What's wrong with me? Is it because my dad didn't hug me enough? Does he remind me of my ex-girlfriend or my ex-boyfriend? And they start this massive spiral. And then the thoughts one thought, which is involuntary, then triggers so many voluntary thoughts that you've ended up wasting all this time, ruined your mood, and you're now in massive depression because of that one involuntary thought. If you learn very quickly to dismiss involuntary thoughts and understand it's not real, then you're more productive with your time. Again, something that I learned to do. And it's not about going, It's about going, really? Does that thought matter? Is that true? No, not really. And again, a really great technique is, if so, so what? And you just have a thought and you go, okay, if that's true, so what? And the idea is not to spiral, just to go, so what? So what? Okay, I thought I want to punch that guy in the face. So what? Am I going to punch that guy in the face? No. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really understanding that cognitive behavioral of thinking. And the more you can master your thoughts, the more you'll master your life.
Yeah, it's not the first thought that's the problem. It's the thought that comes after it, and the thought that comes after that. And it's awareness, isn't it? Just being aware. It's not about controlling your thoughts, because no one can stand guard over their thoughts. You never get out of bed in the morning, would you? You'd be paralyzed every day. So
and
it's
some
just
people
the
are.
awareness. Exactly. So what's the, in terms of where you are now, and I'd love to just talk a little bit about speaking. I know that you co-run a speaking group. In terms of, I know this is one of the biggest fears that people have about getting up and speaking. So how can people combat that fear? And again, it's just their thinking that's getting in the way. There's nothing real out there in the world that's stopping them getting up there. But how can they best deal with their fears about public speaking? Because it brings out, fears of rejection, fears of being humiliated, fears of being laughed at. Yeah. Could you just say a little bit about that?
Well, that's a great place to put the if so, so what? If I get rejected, so what? If I get laughed at, so what, right? Am I going to die? No, you're not. And actually, a lot of people equate that to death, right?
Yes,
but you're not going to die. The other thing to do is to accept where you are, right? Don't compare. Comparing is despairing. Everybody's a different part of the journey. So accept where you are now, and accept, just like any skill, any craft, you need to work on it to get to where you want to go. No one walks on stage. Okay, I can't say no one because I don't know everyone, right? But very few walk on stage, own the stage, blow everyone away like that. Understand it's a journey. Accept fear is part of the journey. Accept nerves is part of the journey. Accept where you are today is perfect, and know where you want to go. And just like learning to run or learning to swim or learning a skill, you need to invest your time and you need to practice it. The more you practice it, the more you're able to manage the fear, the more you're able to get out and say what you need to say, but also attaching your big why as a speaker. Why do you want to speak? All right, you might have a great story. Fabulous. Understand that that's good, but as a speaker, will only get you so far. Again, what's your purpose for your speaking? What's your big why? When you know that, now if your big why, like an entrepreneur, is to impact and to do good in this world, then actually, the more you focus on the impact you can create in the world, the smaller your fear will appear. However, you still need to accept and deal with that. And the way to deal with that is to train, to invest, to understand, and to go, also, you know what? There's going to be times you're going to bum. There's going to be times you're not going to do well. There's going to be times where you're not going to sell. And you accept that and you take it as feedback and then you use it to move forward. I've had times when I've bombed. I've had times where sometimes I've got, I do small rooms right now. I used to do really big rooms, like 150 plus rooms. Now I do between 5 to 25 up to 40, and sometimes I do rooms of 10 and I get 5 sales, and sometimes I'll do rooms of 20 and I'll get 3. It's like, what? But, okay, then it's just an opportunity. I look back and go, okay, where can I improve? And that's a big thing. But if you're at the beginning of your journey as a speaker, accept fear. It's going to be part of the journey, but just don't let it dominate you. There's, of course, techniques. Again, there's things like you could look at NLP, EFT, all kinds of ways to really work through and collapse the emotional attachment. But like anything, practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more you work on it, even at home in your mirror, the more you do things, the better you'll become. I think there's also this notion with speaking that you don't need to practice it. Like, even if you train, even if you're going to monthly training things, you still need to be training in between. And that's a big way of doing it.
I completely concur, because I've bombed as a speaker, and it was such a huge learning curve that I decided then to invest in myself and learn how to do it properly, rather than just, hoping it will come together at the last minute. And it's the theme of our talk today has really been twofold, I think. One is to focus on your big why. Why do you want to have your own business? Why do you want to be a speaker? and not just look at the financial why, but look at the bigger why, growing, fulfillment, reaching out to a wider audience, impacting people. And then also knowing it's a journey, because when we look at a TED talker, we look at the end result. We don't see the days and days and weeks and months of preparation that's got to get them to that final point. And so, as you said, it's not expecting instant gratification, but just having the playfulness of saying, well, this is going to be a skill I'm going to learn. If you were going to become an acrobat, you wouldn't expect to be able to juggle,
Exactly.
in 5 minutes. You would expect to throw one ball in the air or become a juggler and then throw two. So it's really knowing that it's going to take a bit of time, but you're going to come up with something amazing at the end. And not only will your skills grow, but you will grow as a person. Your mindset will grow. You'll become more confident. You'll suddenly start realizing, actually, people do want to listen to what I have to say. I have something valuable to share.
Right, exactly. And I love that metaphor. You can't learn to be an acrobat without investing and training and learning the basics. How can you do a backflip? You're just going to, you can give it a go, but I promise you'll pretty much break your neck. So please don't do that at home.
Yeah, so don't try that at home.
Yeah. So I think that's a great metaphor.
What's the number one tip you could share with our listeners about how they can grow their mindset so they can really believe in themselves and grow their confidence, not just in business, but just in life generally?
The biggest tip I can give you is find someone that resonates with you and invest in them. As in, if you truly believe, check them out. Please check them out. I will say that. Check out their results. Speak to people about them. But if you find someone that resonates with, like you, Nina, right? If someone resonates with you, right, invest. It's the greatest gift you can give yourself. My number one tip is invest in your mindset. Sure, you can watch all the videos and you can read all the books, but there's no greater guide than someone that's doing it, been there, studied it, and is getting results for people. So number one tip is invest in your mindset. That's my number one tip.
And I would completely agree with that as well. I've invested many times in mindset coaches, in business coaches, and it's really helped me to get to where I am, because to do it on your own is very hard work, and it's also very lonely as well. And it's so much easier to give up when you're doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So Elliot, how can our listeners find out more about you and your work?
That's a great question. I didn't actually think of that. It's like, I just did the podcast. Well, look, there's the website, which is elliotkay.com. And there's also, if people want, I do events, I do seminars. Also, I do have a 100K blueprint, but that's not really a mindset thing. So I don't know if you want me to send that to you.
Whatever the best way for them to get to know your work.
Great. Well, what I'll do then is I'll send you the link, and then you can attach that. But elliotkay.com, so ELLIOTKAY.com. Check out my website. You can either fill in the form to have a chat with me, check out our events. That's the best way to get to know me. Of course, social media, I'm Elliot Kay PTS, as in Power to Succeed. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if you want to follow me on there. I also run a Facebook group called The Strategy Room. So if you wanted to ask to join, we ask you 3 questions: your bank details, your PIN number. Only joking. We just ask you what your biggest challenge is and things like that. And within the strategy room, I do a lot of work around the business aspect of things, a little bit on mindset, but really more about business. So that's another way to get to know me. However you choose to reach out to me, great. If you don't, I just really hope your listeners, it's on Zoom, your viewers get value. And that's really what I was here to do, to serve you and be of service to your podcast.
And you've done that in abundance, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
For everyone who's been listening, who's been watching, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.